So, dear students, we have started our discussion on iron carbon phase diagrams and basically on steels. So, we are going to discuss in detailed manner about the eutectoid transformations in the steel. Just to remind you that iron carbon phase diagram is basically in metallurgy represented as iron carbide phase diagram. And what does it mean? That means the phase diagram basically starts with 0% carbon and it ends at 6.61 weight % carbon. And why it is so? Because it is a phase diagram between iron and iron carbide or Fe and Fe3C. In Fe3C, the carbon concentration is 6.67 weight %. So, that is why the phase diagram is always represented from 0 to 6.6 weight % carbon, and this is a partial phase diagram. And I also told you that this any part of the phase diagram beyond 6.6 weight %, 600% of carbon is not of any importance to us. So, we are not going to discuss. So, what are the different important aspects I discussed in this phase diagram? There are basically 4 solid phases, starting with alpha iron solid solution, gamma iron solid solution, delta iron solid solution. I mentioned alpha, gamma, delta on the phase diagram, and then you have Fe3C as a intermediate phase. So, there are 4 solid phases present, and other than that you have liquid phase also. So, the regions which are important to us are marked here: gamma, alpha, alpha plus gamma, delta, and this is alpha plus Fe3C. Okay, alpha is known as ferrite, alpha is always written as ferrite, gamma is written as austenite, and Fe3 is known as cementite. Please remember these names, and delta is known as delta ferrite. So, please do not get confused with alpha and delta, both are BCC. Alpha is a room temperature phase, whereas delta is a high temperature phase. Normally in solid state reactions delta does not make much importance, but it only for low carbon concentration steel delta makes a difference. Okay, so now the reaction, so as you know there are 3 important reactions in this phase diagram. The first one is a eutectic reaction which takes place at about 1146 degrees Celsius temperature, marked here at the carbon concentration of 4.3 weight % carbon, and that is basically important for cast iron families. So, we are going to discuss importance of this reaction when you talk about cast irons. Then you have this is, you see, this is the horizontal line at 1146. So, every horizontal line in a phase diagram represents a reaction. So, now there is another horizontal line here which corresponds to peridictic reaction between liquid and the delta, giving rise to gamma. I discussed about peridictic phase diagrams a lot. So, I am not going to discuss now the detail of this, only when we talk about stainless steel we are going to bring this reaction into the discussion. Important thing which is happening here is this reaction, which is at 727 degrees Celsius temperature, is known as eutectoid reactions, and as I told you, eutectoid reaction is gamma going to alpha plus Fe3C. It happens at A1 temperature, and I told you why we use A1, because 727 is only for iron carbon system. It can vary depending on steel compositions. You have manganese, phosphorus, sulfur, copper, iron, copper, then you have nickel, chromium. Depending on the elements present, this temperature can change. That is, it is always better to use a temperature called A1. So, A1 is this temperature at which this eutectoid transformation happens, correct. How this eutectoid transformation is manifested in the microstructures? Okay, let us now look at it that. Okay, I am going to show you. This is manifested by a mixture of alpha and cementite, where I told you this is the alpha iron, the white one, and this lamellis which you see as a black is cementite. So, therefore, when gamma transform into alpha plus Fe3C by eutectoid reaction, this is the kind of microstructure it forms. And I told you that alpha is a very ductile because it is a BCC structure with very low carbon concentrations. What is the carbon concentration in alpha iron? Let us look at it. You can see here, this is the alpha, this is the alpha. In a big phase diagram, I mean starting from 0 to 5, even we have removed from 5 to 6.7% also. Still here you can see alpha is seen only a line. So therefore the maximum concentration of carbon in alpha iron at 727 degree Celsius temperature, 727 degree Celsius temperature is 0.028% carbon, and room temperature it is virtually 0. So that is why alpha is basically almost like a pure iron, very little amount of carbon. And where does this carbon go? They go to the interstitial sites of alpha or the octahedral or tetrahedral voids. So now this is the A1 temperature written. You see here in this phase diagram all the infinite reactions are given by red line, A1 temperature, and then this is A3 temperature. A3 is what? A3 is, as you add carbon into iron, the stability of gamma phase decreases as a function of carbon concentration, and it reaches a minimum value at 0.8% weight percent carbon. That is what the eutectoid carbon concentration, correct. So and then this is alpha plus gamma zone, because between two solid single phase zone there has to be a two phase zone, and this temperature, this one is line is known as ACM. ACM stands for A cementite. This is the basically cementite composition line, as in the when it it is in contact with the austenite, okay. That is what the cementite concentration, a carbon concentration in cementite will vary, okay. Although we say cementite concentration about 6.61% carbon, but it can have a window. Anyway, so these are the three lines, A1, A3 and ACM. A2 is a temperature where it is about 763 degree Celsius temperature, 763 is somewhere there. This is the ferro to paramagnetic transition temperature for the alpha phase, correct. So before I discuss on this diagram, let me just go to the board and tell you how it can be further clarified. Okay, so I have drawn here on this diagram, I have drawn here only the important part of the phase diagram. What is that? That is this starting from 0 to 910 degrees Celsius, carbon concentrations is about 1% maximum, 1 weight percentage. So what are the phase fields here? This is the gamma, this is the alpha, and this is basically alpha plus cementite, and this is alpha plus gamma. Similarly, this will be gamma plus Fe3 or cementite. Please remember this. These phase fields are very important. And what are these lines? This is A1 temperature line, this is A3 line, and this is ACM line or curves. Fine. So now question is this is my eutectoid composition, and this, let me just write down properly, this is 0.8 weight percent of carbon, and this one is 0.02. So this is not in scale, I have just wanted to show you in detailed manner, that is why I have done that. Now if I take a steel of composition 0.8 percentage and heat it beyond 727 degrees Celsius temperature, or beyond, say let us say about A1 temperature, and let us say I heat it about 950 degrees Celsius temperature at this point. So everything else will be in gamma. If everything is gamma, so what will happen? I cool down. As I cool down this, okay, let me just draw these lines so that you can get a better understanding of these features. So I have a steel composition, steel of 0.8 composition at about 950 degrees Celsius temperature. I am cooling it down. Okay, I cool it down. So nothing will happen till it hits the A1 line. Nothing will happen. Only thing will happen is that gamma grains should continuously, as you cool it down, it will have carbon enriched in gamma. Okay. Now below 727 degrees Celsius temperature, you are going to have, you cannot have gamma anymore. Gamma has to transform eutectoidally to this phase mixture between alpha and Fe3C. How does this happen? Okay, so let us draw several pictures to show you that. This is suppose gamma grains, single phase gamma grains, these are all gamma above 700 to temperature above A1, okay, or here is 727 degrees Celsius temperature. Now, if I cool it down, what will happen? If I cool it down below 900, below A1 temperature, when it reaches below A1, these grains will transform into a phase mixture of alpha plus cementite. How this will happen? Well, to understand this, let us draw one of the grain, I will do others. Okay, suppose this now this grain has uniform carbon concentration of 0.8 weight percentage. Now, by some means, we will discuss how. So, some means, suppose cementite nucleates some part, cementite will form, Fe3C will nucleate and then it will grow. Basically, every phase transformation starts with a nucleation. So, therefore, if the cementite nucleates here, cementite is a lot of carbon, huge amount of carbon, it contains 6.61% carbon. Remember, each grain contains about 0.8% carbon, and if I want to nucleate a cementite, I need 6.67 weight percent carbon, that is a lot of carbon. So, it will do one thing, it will take all the carbon from nearby region, it will draw all the carbon from nearby region. Why? Because for it to grow from nucleation, it requires more and more carbon. Carbon is the important species. Iron is abundantly available in each of these grains, iron is not a problem, only carbon is a problem. So, carbon will be required for its growth of cementite. As it grows, nearby regions, that means the regions which are in front of it and side of it will be depleted of carbon, because it requires carbon. So, as it is getting depleted of carbon, carbon concentration will reach very low means it will reach even 0.02 or even less than that. When it happens, this will lead to nucleation of alpha phase on the both sides of these. So, this is my cementite, this green color thing is cementite, and red color one, this is cementite Fe3C, and red color ones, this red color thing is alpha iron, okay, alpha phase. So, now, so that means what? This is the way I can actually nucleate alpha on the both sides of the cementite. Now, as alpha contains very low amount of carbon, as you see from the phase diagram, it contains maximum 0.02% carbon, whereas my grain has higher carbon concentration than alpha. So, as the alpha grows into it, there on the both sides of alpha and in front of the alpha there will be huge carbon built up, because it will reject all the carbon, it does not need carbon, it need only iron, because it has more amount of less carbon than the alloy compositions or the grain compositions, and much lower than the cementite compositions. Because it does not need carbon, so it will grow very easily without requirement of carbon or by rejecting carbon into the nearby regions. So, all the nearby regions are in front of it, it will be, the carbon will be enriched, and when the carbon concentration reach very high, then cementite will nucleate and it will grow, okay. And this process will continue, as I told you, this process will continue, and that is how a grain, a colony will form, and when this colony will grow like this will grow like this, okay, it will form fully Pearlite structure. That is what you have seen the image. I am going to show you again. When it grows, it will become fully Pearlitic structure. So, that is the structure of a Pearlite. Similarly, any other grain in that will have alpha can nucleate at the beginning, and if at the alpha nucleates and grow, alpha has very low amount of carbon. So, as alpha grows, it will reject carbon into nearby regions on the sides and the front, and when the carbon concentration in nearby region will be very high, then it will form cementite. So, similarly, when the cementite requires more carbon, alpha will grow and these things will follow like this. So, and then you have a colony of cementite formation happening, cementite formation will happen, something is wrong, no, it is okay. So, this is the way the colonies will form. So, all the grains will have these colonies, I am not drawing it. Red and green color stuff. Okay, this is red. So, red and green, red and green, everywhere it will be like this. Okay, I am not going to draw all of them, but this is how the things will happen. So, that is the way the Eutectoid transformation will actually occur, or this is the mechanism of Eutectoid transformation. So, basically this transformation is aided by diffusion of carbon. As the carbon diffuses, carbon diffusion is the predominant factor, and you know carbon is an interstitial element in these alloys. Why? Because carbon goes to the interstitial positions of iron. As it is interstitial species, the diffusion of carbon is very fast as compared to the iron. Why it is very fast? See, for diffusion of carbon it requires more number of interstitial positions, and in a system like BCC or FCC iron, basically in BCC iron it is easy for carbon to move from one interstitial species to other interstitial species, because the sites will remain vacant, because you are adding very little amount of carbon, but interstitial species number of interstitial positions will be very large. So, therefore, the vacant sites are also very large. So, therefore, diffusion of carbon is very fast, and at the high temperature close to 700, 800, 900 degrees Celsius temperature, diffusion is carbon is very high. So, that is why the whole transformation is basically controlled by the diffusion of carbon ahead of these lamellae, what I have drawn the way I have shown you. Okay, so this is what is the main mechanism of formation of the paralytic colonies, and these are known as Pearlite. As I told you, this whole thing, this is known as Pearlite. Why it is known as Pearlite? Because if you see this kind of sample, polish and see under optical microscope, the luster or color of these will be like a pearlite or like a pearl, okay, like a pearl, P-E-A-R-L, pearl, and pearlite means small pearl, that is why, because this is a micron scale, that is why it is called pearlite. So, now this is for the eutectoid composition of steel. On the other hand, you also have, as eutectic alloys, you also have the hypereutectoid steels and hypoeutectoid steels also. We need to discuss them also, how this transformation will happen, and they are very important. Remember, most of the steels in the world, almost like 1000 million tons, is produced having a composition between 0.2 to 0.5% of carbon, and very less amount of steel is produced which having hypereutectoid steel. Mostly steels which are used for knives, cutleries and very hard objects, or like blades for razors, they are actually have compositions close to 1% or 0.8% of carbon. But all the steels which are used for structural applications like bridge, house or any building or any other purposes, or ship building or whatever it is, it basically falls in the hypoeutectoid range. In the hypoeutectoid range, the compositions of the alloys will dictate what is the properties we will have. But before I do that, let me just go back to the slides and show you now the microstructure. With the understanding of this, you can now able to get a better idea of the things. So, this is what I shown you, the lamellar structure. Now, let us see a better picture of this. Yes, oops, what is that? This is the better picture of this. You can see that there are grains of austenite. This was grains of austenite. I am drawing few of them. Okay, this is the grains of austenite, and each of these grain has then undergone these eutectoid transformations. Because of this, you have formed colonies, large colonies, and each colony has a black and white regions. So, these black and white regions are what? black ones are basically cementite and white ones are basically perlite or sorry ferrite. And this black and white thing happens because of what? Because of the etching we use. We normally use nitrile, which is nothing but a nitric acid, to etch it, and nitrile preferentially reacts with cementite, and cementite regions goes away, and that is why you form the black regions. So, that is the way, that is the normally the microstructure of the hyper eutectoid, sorry, eutectoid steels or 0.8% carbon plain carbon steels. So, now let me just go back, and so therefore, in a nutshell this is austenite, and if you cool it down below T1 A1 temperature, it becomes a perlite or this type. This is a very important thing I told you. In perlite, cementite is a very hard phase, and whereas ferrite is a very soft phase. Because of this mixture of a hard phase in a soft matrix, because ferrite is the predominantly large areas consisting of ferrite. So, that is why it called matrix, and these cementites are very small fraction of the pieces present in the microstructure. This is has a wonderful mechanical and physical properties because of this in situ composite which is prepared during this reaction, and which is unique in the world. No other systems can show this kind of microstructures. That is why steel is so widely used in the applications. So, now I just want to show you this picture. This is taken from a book called Making, Shaping and Treating of Steel by US Steel Corporations, very important book, very big book. Is there any steel plants you can access that. It will talk about starting from making to the shaping and treating of the steels also. So, this is a picture in which you can see this is the colony of perlite, and in front of which you have a gamma iron, correct, and the interface looks like a very curvy one, very curved interface you can see here, and you can see these black ones are cementite as I marked you, these black ones are cementite and white ones is alpha, okay, alpha Ap. So, this basically the idea is that to show you that this interface between the gamma iron and the perlite is a very mobile interface, and its movement depends on the carbon diffusion across this interface, and this reaction is exactly similar, same like eutectic reaction. In eutectic reaction you have eutectic phase on this side and have liquid on the other side. Instead of that, instead of liquid you have gamma iron in these sides, okay. So, now I go back to this, So, therefore, one of the way of transforming austenite is by forming perlite. Perlite is basically a diffusion control transformation process, paralytic formation transformations from the austenite, but this happens at a very slow cooling rate. Slow means it is a very pretty slow cooling rate, but if you cool it very fast, I take the sample in austenitic stage, then I heat the sample at 950 degrees Celsius temperature, and then you directly quench in water, as I mentioned in the last class, you will form martensite, okay. And martensite is a different, completely different phase. It is a body centered tetragonal structure. It is very hard and very resistance micro phase, but not very tough. On the other hand, if you do a completely different kind of things, that is you cool it from the austenite to about 350 to 400 Celsius temperature and keep it at the temperature for a long time, let us say about 12 to 24 hours in a while bath at about 400 Celsius temperature, what you form is a benite. A benite is also consisting of cementite and ferrite like perlite, but the morphology is different. This is a benite where you see it looks like little 3 leaves, inside the leaves you have this cementite and ferrite mixtures present. So, in the next class, that is what I am going to do. I am going to first discuss about the hyper and hyper eutectoid steel transformations, and then I will go on to the what's called martensites and benites one by one, okay.